Welcome to today's deep dive. We're going to be exploring Rich Dad, Poor Dad for teens.
Okay.
And don't let the title throw you off. I think there's a lot of really good evergreen principles in here.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those books that even though it's targeted towards teens, I think anyone at any age can really benefit from.
Yeah, it's like financial literacy 101. You know, you can't build a house without a solid foundation.
Right.
So this is like getting those foundational blocks in place.
Yeah, for sure.
So where do we even begin with this? I mean, the book covers a lot of ground.
Yeah, it does. Well, I think a good starting point is this concept of the rat race that the book introduces right from the get-go.
Okay, so the rat race, paint a picture for me. What does that even look like?
So imagine this, you land that dream job, You're making good money, you start, checking off all those boxes, nice house, new car, vacations.
Yeah, the American dream, right?
Exactly. But then those bills start piling up. The mortgage payments, the credit card statements, and suddenly you're working just to keep your head above water.
Yeah, you're on that treadmill running and running, but never really getting anywhere.
Exactly. And the scariest part is most people don't even realize they're in this race until it's too late. They're trapped in this cycle of working for money, spending money, and accumulating debt, often without ever building real wealth.
So how do we avoid this trap? What's the key to breaking free from this rat race?
Well, the book really emphasizes the importance of understanding the difference between assets and liabilities.
Okay, this is something we hear a lot, but I think it's worth breaking down. What's the distinction?
An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. It's a simple concept, but so powerful.
Can you give me some real-world examples? What are some assets that people can focus on building?
Sure. So rental property that generates monthly income. That's a classic example of an asset. Or a business that you own and operate. Or even investments like stocks or bonds that have the potential to appreciate in value. On the flip side, that shiny new car that you finance might seem like an asset, but it's actually a liability because it's costing you money in loan payments, insurance, and maintenance.
It's not just about what you own, it's about how that ownership is structured.
Exactly.
And whether it's working for you or against you financially.
Right.
And that's where financial literacy comes into play, I think.
Absolutely. The book stresses that financial literacy isn't just about crunching numbers, it's about understanding how money works, how to make it work for you, and how to avoid common financial pitfalls.
Yeah, it's like having a financial roadmap so you're not just wandering aimlessly through the world of money.
Exactly.
Speaking of roadmaps, the book offers this interesting idea of minding your own business as a way to build wealth.
Right, and it doesn't necessarily mean, quitting your job and starting a company, although that's certainly one way to do it.
Yeah.
But it's more about developing a mindset where you're focused on building and acquiring assets that generate passive income.
So it's about creating a system where your money is working for you even when you're not actively working.
Exactly.
The author talks about the contrasting views of his own two fathers on this subject.
Right. His biological father was a school teacher, very much believed in the traditional path of, getting a good education, finding a secure job, and working hard. While his rich dad, who was a successful entrepreneur, emphasized the importance of building assets and creating multiple streams of income.
And the book suggests that this difference in mindset was a key factor in their contrasting levels of financial success.
Yeah, it's not just about working hard, it's about working smart and understanding the different ways to generate wealth.
So it's about taking ownership of your financial future, becoming financially literate, and building a solid foundation of assets. And speaking of foundations, let's talk about corporations. This is an area that can get a bit controversial, but I'm curious to hear the book's perspective.
Yeah, and I think it's important to approach this topic from a purely financial standpoint, not a political one. The book really looks at corporations not as good or bad, but as a tool that can be used to your advantage.
Okay, so let's unpack this. What are some of the financial advantages that corporations offer?
Well, one key advantage is the way corporations are taxed. They have the ability to deduct expenses before paying taxes, which can significantly reduce their tax burden.
So it's like playing the game on a different level compared to individuals who are taxed on their gross income.
Right. And the book argues that understanding these rules of the game is crucial for anyone who wants to build significant wealth. It's not about avoiding taxes altogether, but about using the system legally and strategically to your advantage.
It goes back to that idea of working smart, right?
Absolutely.
Now, it's important to note that we're not tax experts here, and anyone considering incorporating should definitely seek professional advice.
100% agree. We're just exploring the concepts here and encouraging listeners to think critically about these financial tools.
So we've talked about the rat race, the difference between assets and liabilities, this idea of minding your own business and the role of corporations. What are some other key themes that emerge from the book?
Well, I think another important concept is the idea of working to learn, not just to earn.
Okay, explain that one to me.
It's about adopting a mindset of continuous learning and skill development, even if it means taking on roles or projects that might not offer immediate financial rewards. The book argues that these experiences can pay off exponentially down the road by equipping you with valuable skills and knowledge.
There's a great anecdote in the book about an aspiring writer who refused to learn sales skills because he thought it was beneath him.
Oh, yeah.
And as a result, he struggled to get his work published and build a successful writing career.
It's a classic example of how limiting your skill set can limit your opportunities.
Right.
And the book encourages us to think about our careers as a journey of continuous learning, always seeking ways to add value and expand our capabilities.
So it's not just about climbing the corporate ladder. It's about building a diverse skill set that makes you more adaptable and valuable in the long run.
Exactly.
And speaking of valuable skills, the author himself demonstrates some pretty savvy marketing skills in the book, especially with that attention-grabbing title.
Absolutely. He definitely understands the power of marketing and branding, and he even admits to choosing a provocative title to get people talking about his ideas.
It's a great example of walking the talk. So we've covered a lot of ground here. The rat race, assets versus liabilities, minding your own business, the power of corporations, and this idea of working to learn. But let's get real for a minute. What are some of the biggest obstacles that hold people back from achieving financial success?
Well, the book identifies 5 key obstacles: fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, and arrogance. And these are just external forces. They're internal hurdles that we often create for ourselves.
Okay, let's break those down one by one. Starting with fear. How can fear sabotage our financial progress?
Fear can manifest in so many ways: fear of failure, fear of loss, fear of the unknown. And it can really paralyze us, preventing us from taking risks, making investments, or even just having honest conversations about money.
The book actually says, and I love this quote, "It's okay to be fearful. It's okay to be a coward when it comes to money. You can still be rich."
Right. It's normal to feel fear, but it's important not to let it control your decisions.
And this is where having a solid financial foundation, like we talked about earlier, can really help. When you understand how money works and you're building assets, it can give you more confidence to take calculated risks.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what about cynicism? How does that play into this?
Cynicism is that voice in our heads that tells us it's all rigged, that the rich get richer, and that there's no point in even trying. And it can be really dangerous because it often masquerades as realism or practicality.
It's like wearing those negativity goggles that only let you see the downsides and the obstacles.
Exactly. And it can trick you into thinking you're being level-headed when in reality you're just closing yourself off to opportunities. The book shares a story about a friend who was offered an amazing real estate deal, a true bargain, but his cynicism made him miss out.
He was so focused on all the reasons why it wouldn't work instead of seeing the potential.
Right. And that's the danger of cynicism. It can blind you to the possibilities even when they're right in front of you.
So how do we combat this cynicism? How do we shift our mindset to be more open to opportunities?
Well, the book encourages us to challenge our cynical thoughts, to look for evidence that contradicts our negative assumptions. It's about actively seeking out the positive, the possibilities, the success stories.
It's like retraining your brain to see the glass half full rather than half empty.
Exactly. And I think surrounding yourself with positive, supportive people can make a huge difference too.
Yeah, the people you spend time with can really influence your outlook.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked about fear and cynicism. What about laziness? How does that factor into financial success?
You know, when the book talks about laziness, it's not just about being physically lazy. It's more about this mental laziness that can prevent us from taking action.
So it's about procrastination, self-sabotage, that kind of thing.
Exactly. The book argues that a lot of people stay busy as a way to avoid something that they don't want to face, like their finances. They might fill their days with work, social obligations, or even just mindless entertainment, but they're not actually making progress towards their financial goals.
It's like running on that treadmill again, expending energy, but going nowhere.
Exactly. And the antidote to this type of laziness is to be intentional with your time and energy, to prioritize the activities that truly matter, and make a conscious effort to move towards your goals.
So it's about having a plan, setting clear priorities, and taking consistent action.
Precisely.
Okay, what about bad habits? What are some common bad habits that can sabotage our financial progress?
Oh, there are so many. But the book specifically calls out the habit of saying, "I can't afford it." Rich Dad actually forbade his kids from using those words. Instead, he encouraged them to ask, how can I afford it? It's a subtle shift in language, but it can completely change your mindset.
It's like flipping a switch from scarcity to abundance.
Exactly. Instead of focusing on what you lack, you're challenging yourself to find a way to be creative, to think outside the box.
And that creative problem solving is a really valuable skill.
Absolutely.
Okay, we've tackled fear, cynicism, laziness, and bad habits. What's the final obstacle standing between us and financial freedom?
Arrogance. And this can be a tricky one because it often masquerades as confidence. But the book defines arrogance as ego plus ignorance.
Ouch, that's a harsh truth. But it's so important to recognize when our ego is preventing us from learning and growing.
It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking we know it all, especially when things are going well. But true financial intelligence requires humility and a willingness to keep learning.
So it's about recognizing that we don't have all the answers, that there's always more to learn, and that we can benefit from seeking guidance and advice from others. So we've identified these 5 major obstacles: fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, and arrogance. How do we overcome these challenges and start moving towards financial freedom?
Well, that's where the 10 steps to developing your financial genius come in, and that's what we'll dive into next.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's do it. Welcome back. We're diving deeper into Rich Dad, Poor Dad for Teens. And I'm really excited about this next section because it gets into those 10 steps to developing your financial genius.
Yeah, this is where we really start getting into the practical advice on how to build wealth.
Exactly. So we've identified those 5 big obstacles that can hold us back: fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, and arrogance. Now let's talk about how to overcome those challenges and start moving in the right direction.
Okay, so step 1 is all about finding a reason greater than reality.
Okay, that sounds a bit philosophical. What does that actually mean in practical terms?
It's about finding your why, your deepest motivation for wanting to achieve financial freedom.
So it's not just about wanting a bigger house or a fancy car. It's about something deeper than that.
It's exactly. It could be about providing for your family, leaving a legacy, pursuing your passions, giving back to your community, whatever really lights your fire. The book argues that having this strong why will help you stay focused and motivated, especially when things get tough.
So it's like having that North Star guiding you on your journey.
Exactly.
Okay, so once you've got that driving force, what's next?
Step 2 is about choosing your heroes.
So like finding role models who can inspire us.
Yeah, but it's not just about admiring celebrities or athletes. It's about identifying individuals who have achieved the level of financial success that you aspire to.
So people who have walked the walk and can show us the way.
Exactly. The book suggests studying their stories, learning from their mistakes, and modeling their habits and mindsets.
That makes sense. What about step 3?
Step 3 is all about mastering self-discipline.
Ooh, that sounds tough.
It can be, but it's really about developing those daily habits and routines that support your financial goals.
So it's not about deprivation or being super strict. It's about creating a system that works for you.
Exactly. It's about things like budgeting, tracking your spending, automating your savings, and making conscious choices about how you use your time and money.
So it's about those small, consistent choices that add up to big results over time.
Absolutely.
Okay, step 4. This one caught my eye. It's about sales and marketing.
Yeah, this might seem a bit unexpected, but the book argues that these skills are essential for anyone who wants to succeed financially, regardless of their profession.
So it's not just about selling products. It's about a broader set of skills.
Exactly. It's about communication, persuasion, negotiation, building relationships. It's about being able to articulate your value and connect with people in a meaningful way.
And those are valuable skills in any field.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've got our why, we've chosen our heroes, we're working on our self-discipline, and we're honing our sales and marketing skills. What's next?
Step 5 brings us back to something we talked about earlier, overcoming fear.
Right, because we know that fear can be a major roadblock.
Yeah.
What are some practical strategies for dealing with fear?
Well, one strategy is to just start early. The earlier you start investing and building assets, the less you'll have to worry about, because you'll have more time to ride out market fluctuations and benefit from compound growth.
It's like planting a tree. The sooner you plant it, the stronger and taller it will grow.
Exactly.
Right.
Another strategy is to educate yourself and become financially literate. The more you understand how money works, the less fearful you'll be, because you'll be making informed decisions based on knowledge, not emotion.
So knowledge is power when it comes to overcoming fear.
Exactly.
Okay, what about step 6?
Step 6 is all about learning from your mistakes.
We all make mistakes, so how do we turn those into learning opportunities?
The book emphasizes that this isn't just about acknowledging your failures, it's about embracing them as opportunities for growth.
This reminds me of that high attitude game concept that the author talks about.
Yes, exactly. It's about having the resilience and the determination to keep going even when things get tough. The book uses the analogy of the Alamo. It was a devastating defeat, but it became a rallying cry, a symbol of courage and perseverance.
So it's not about avoiding failure, it's about learning from it and using it as fuel to move forward.
Absolutely.
What about step 7? This one sounds intriguing. It's about working for free.
Okay, so before you run off and quit your job, let me explain. This isn't about literally working without pay forever.
Okay, good. I was about to say.
It's about finding opportunities to gain valuable experience, learn new skills, and build your network, even if it means taking a temporary pay cut or volunteering your time.
So it's about investing in your future, even if it means sacrificing some short-term income.
Exactly. The author talks about his own experience working for free at his rich dad's company, learning the ropes of business, and developing those essential skills that later helped him launch his own successful ventures.
So it's about taking that long-term view.
Exactly.
Okay, on to step 8. What's this one all about?
Step 8 is all about finding deals.
Like bargain hunting.
Sort of. But it's more about developing a keen eye for opportunities that others might miss.
So it's about being resourceful and thinking outside the box.
Exactly. The book encourages you to look beyond the obvious, to explore unconventional sources for investment opportunities.
Like that story about the author finding a real estate bargain in the foreclosure department of a bank?
Yes, most people wouldn't even think to look there, but he saw an opportunity and he seized it.
So it's about being proactive and not waiting for opportunities to just fall into your lap.
Exactly.
Okay, we're on a roll. What's step 9?
Step 9 is about focusing on your asset column.
We've talked about assets and liabilities before, but is there more to it?
This step goes a bit deeper by encouraging you to understand the different types of assets and choose those that align with your financial goals and risk tolerance.
So not all assets are created equal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The book differentiates between different asset classes like businesses, real estate paper assets like stocks and bonds, and commodities like gold and silver.
So it's about building a diversified portfolio, but with a focus on generating passive income.
Exactly.
Okay, we've reached the final step. Step 10, what's the grand finale?
Step 10 is all about overcoming obstacles.
Wait, we already talked about the 5 obstacles: fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, and arrogance. Is this just a recap?
It's more than that. The book emphasizes that overcoming obstacles is an ongoing process. It's a continuous cycle of learning, adapting, and persevering. It's about developing that mental toughness and resilience that allows you to bounce back from setbacks and keep moving forward.
So it's about building that high attitude game we talked about earlier, that ability to stay positive and focused even when things get tough.
Exactly. And it's about recognizing that challenges and setbacks are inevitable, but they don't have to define you.
It's about how you choose to respond to those challenges, how you learn from them, and how you use them as fuel to propel yourself forward.
Exactly.
Wow, this has been such an inspiring and insightful journey through those 10 steps to financial genius.
I agree. It's really a framework for developing the mindset and the habits that can lead to financial success.
We're back for the final part of our deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad for teens. And you know, this book really pushes us to think differently about money. And I think this next section kind of takes that to a whole new level.
Yeah, this is where the book gets into some of its more controversial ideas.
Yeah.
It challenges some pretty deeply ingrained beliefs about wealth and taxes.
Okay, so let's dive into that. One of the things that really stood out to me was the book's perspective on taxes.
Yeah, the book really delves into the history of taxes and points out that initially income tax and property tax were only levied on the wealthy.
Oh, that's interesting. I never really thought about it that way.
Yeah, it's kind of like that historical context gets lost sometimes.
Right. We just assume taxes are something everyone pays.
Exactly. And the book argues that the concept of broader taxation was made more palatable to the masses by framing it as a way to punish the rich, playing into that Robin Hood narrative.
Speaking of Robin Hood, the book actually makes this bold claim that Robin Hood was a crook.
Yeah, it definitely goes against everything we learned in childhood, right?
Yeah, not exactly the hero we thought he was.
It's definitely meant to make you think. The book argues that while taking from the rich might seem like a noble cause, it ultimately discourages wealth creation and economic growth.
It's a different perspective for sure. So the book encourages us to think about taxes not as a punishment, but as a system that can be used strategically.
Right, and this is where the concept of corporations comes in.
Okay, so we touched on corporations earlier, but let's go a little deeper. How do they fit into this whole tax equation?
The book highlights how corporations offer certain tax advantages that individuals don't have. For instance, corporations can deduct expenses before paying taxes, which can significantly reduce their tax burden.
So it's like they're playing by a different set of rules.
In a way, yeah. And the book's point is that understanding these rules is crucial for anyone who wants to build significant wealth. It's not about evading taxes, but about using the system legally and strategically.
It goes back to that theme of working smart, not just working hard. And of course, we should always emphasize that we're not tax experts, and anyone considering incorporating should definitely consult with a professional.
Absolutely.
So we've talked about taxes, corporations, the importance of financial literacy. What's the key takeaway for the average person listening to this?
I think the book's biggest message is that developing financial literacy is crucial for everyone, regardless of their income level or career aspirations.
It's about empowering yourself to take control of your finances.
Exactly. It's about understanding how money works, making informed decisions, and building a solid foundation for your financial future.
And Rich Dad, Poor Dad for Teens provides a roadmap for doing just that.
It really does. It's packed with practical advice and thought-provoking insights that can help anyone on their journey to financial freedom.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad for Teens. You know, even though it's geared towards a younger audience, I think we've both learned a lot from revisiting these principles.
Absolutely. I think it's a book that everyone can benefit from no matter what stage of life they're in.
Well said. So on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad for Teens. Thanks for joining us. And remember, financial success is a journey, not a destination. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving for those financial goals